Hey, Phil, there's just some news crossing on United. I don't know if you've had time to look at this yet.
I have.
To see what's going on. What's happening?
Well, you've got a couple of 8Ks that United is dropping, and this is big news in terms of what the airline is going to be doing. The airline has essentially lined up a loan for $5 billion. The collateral for that loan, basically, it's going to be backed by the MileagePlus program. That's the frequent flyer, the loyalty program. This will help them, along with a Treasury loan that they're going to be applying for, have about $17 billion in liquidity by the end of the third quarter. That's $5 billion, and then another $4.5 billion they expect to get through Treasury. That will be backed by slots, gates, routes, not by aircraft. So between those two, United expects to have about $17 billion in liquidity by the end of the third quarter, with a cash burn rate coming from $40 million a day in the second quarter to $30 million a day in the third quarter. But they are doing this, guys, basically lining up the possibility that they're going to need even more liquidity, especially if there's a second wave of COVID-19 and we see a further contraction in terms of flying both here in the U.S. and around the world.
Phil, explain how the loyalty program is worth $5 billion, because that's really just the information on the passengers, right? If those passengers aren't traveling, aren't spending like they used to, what is the value there?
No, when you're looking at the MileagePlus program, $5.3 billion in sales last year, Becky, $1.8 billion in EBITDA. So they're monetizing that program by essentially saying, okay, this is going to be backing a loan facility for $5 billion. By the way, they expect that they will keep this open.
That was last year.
And from time to time tap it.
What's the revenue and the EBITDA this year?
They did not give that. They just gave us a briefing on that. Becky, but if you look at airline bankruptcies, and we've said this going all the way back to 2000, if you look at all of them, what is the holy grail when it comes to bankruptcy that is protected first and foremost before anything else? Loyalty programs, because they're the most valuable asset in many ways that the airlines have. And what United is doing here, and we'll see this likely with other airlines as well, is to say, okay, you know what? We will collateralize this. This will be the mortgage behind this $5 billion loan. You've got 100 million subscribers, and you're bringing in more than $5 billion a year in sales. I think that they believe that this is a smart move, and I think most people will look at it that way, and you'll see other airlines doing something similar in the future.
Look, I think it's a smart move for the airlines. My question is that, it was worth $5 billion last year. What's it worth this year? Show me the numbers this year.
Becky,
and tell me when you think it's going to get back to those numbers. You think it's going to be back like that next year? Maybe. But
well, let me ask you this, Becky. If you are a MileagePlus member, are you canceling that credit card or that program? Are you still spending through that credit card? Are you still spending through that program? And this is not tied into the credit card alone.
I mean, I think most of the people that have those here's my thought on this. I think most of the people that have those credit cards use those credit cards mostly when they travel, because there are so many rewards that are connected to it, whether through your miles.
I disagree. And by the way, Becky, this is not tied into the revenue with the credit card. It is tied into the revenue with the program. Now, with the revenue with the program, it's certainly going to be impacted by fewer people are flying. So your point is correct in terms of what is the value of the program this year. They believe that as more people fly, they'll eventually get back to that $5 billion in sales. But in terms
and that's where the question comes in. That's where the question comes in, is how much is it down this year and how quickly will that return? And I mean, that's the big question on everything happening with the airlines. How quickly are people going to be flying again? That's the unknown.
Right.
That's,
look, and nobody's expecting profitability by the end of the year. But what they are doing here by lining up the $17 billion in liquidity is making sure that they are in position.
I think it's smart on their part. I would question whether the underlying value of the program is still that. I drove by Newark Airport for the first time on Friday, Phil, and I was shocked, because even though I don't really see planes in the air all that much, and every time I do, it's enough for me to stop and take a look at them, I had not driven by any of the airports yet. That was the first one I drove by. There wasn't a plane that was landing. There wasn't a plane that was taking off. I didn't see too many planes at any of the gates, and it was just kind of this awesome reminder of this airport that, when I used to drive by it all the time, would be completely jammed with the planes lining up to come in. Even as you see people start to come back and 500,000 people traveling again, that still is such a small fraction of what we've been seeing before.
Becky, they're a long ways off from where they were pre-COVID-19. There's no doubt about that. And let's be clear here. The big problem, it's the corporate traveler. The corporate traveler is just not coming back anytime soon. So as encouraging as it is that more people want to go And that's the most profitable. More people may want to go to Florida.
Right.
It doesn't really matter until you and I are on a trip, let's say to Dallas or to somewhere else.